Evening.
How are you?
Well, boy, we woke up at 3:30 in the morning to that type of news is overly exciting. Almost gave me a heart attack.
What news at 3:30?
Oh, you didn't get it?
No, well, which news? I hear news all over. What did you hear at 3:30?
Oh, about
Was that the wow, wow, wow?
yeah, there you go.
Michael Savage quote?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's something that you and I hadn't talked about. I've noted it here and there that the CIA connection with her father at Stanford in mind control. A friend of mine who went to Stanford in 52, studied under Ernest Kilgard, who was kind of the father of hypnosis and and things like that. So that didn't surprise me. Who also told me, that way back when, he was already aware in the 50s about mind control and cited Michael, I forget his first name, Condon, Richard Condon,
Mm-hmm.
Manchurian Candidate, he wrote,
Right.
around 1952. Yeah, it's, and other things. But anyway, yeah, it came up, and as soon as you start talking about spooks, I heard this and I heard that, people go, well, I don't know, and, because everyone, to be honest with you, and I'm no different, I'm waiting to hear it from, another one before I begin to think, well, maybe there's something to this. This is
Right.
how the humans work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I watched her, I said, oh, yeah, she kind of sounds credible, but I noticed some of the, like she's about ready to cry in the beginning, and the kind of little girl talk, and, I know lots of women who can kind of play that, turn that on whenever they want, but you don't know this person.
No, that's
If you
exactly
knew them in
right.
real life and you saw them there, you'd say, hey, that's not the same person I know. Although they're under, special circumstances, just as Kavanaugh was, where he came out rather angry and forceful, like he was a volcano ready to explode. And understandable, too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, but you always have to consider the source, so we don't always want to spend a lot of time poking around. And I'm no different. I'm lucky to go one or two links looking for something, in a search on the internet. Usually you're waiting to hear it from someone else who's dug into it, like a Michael Savage or others. But how often do you hear, you're familiar with certain people or activities that have happened in the past, and then later on you find out, oh, wow, you go down 2, 3 more levels deeper, and you find out, where the connections are, like with Abel Danger talking about his sister at the head of the SES.
Yeah. Right.
Whoa, he's, doing it to a family member because he's a patriot, and he's waving the flag all the time. Hey, yeah, I think maybe there's something there. But you never hear anything about the qualifications of these people, like you would with a good intelligence report.
Yep.
When you see them written out here and there over the years. Yeah, it's, you have to consider the source always. And, anyway, that's all part of it. And as Dave Janda shared, he shared the same feeling I had, and I noticed maybe Savage or some of the others have said the same thing. Well, Kavanaugh worked for Bush as his solicitor and so on, after 9/11, and, you gotta wonder about that and whatever else he was connected with.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't paint it black and white or real simple. But that's what we like, just give me the basic story and let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. Yeah. Yep.
Now, I've listened to different people talk. I listened to the whole Michael Savage thing. I mean, the meaty part is what you put out there today, quoted. But there were a couple of other things he said, and I'm listening right now to Winston Trout on the Goldfish Report. Just a half hour into a 2-hour program.
Uh-huh.
And, they're bringing up different points about the hearings, Let me see if I recall what Savage said. Well, the connection with the CIA. Rachel Mitchell. He's claiming that she's from Arizona, and he's attributing that maybe she's connected to Jeff Flake. How was she chosen? Who chose her? How was that done? How did they decide as a group in that committee? And he's saying, look at, she was asking Ford these questions about the map and so on, but what was the point of the map? And he's right. They just went on to another question, like she was looking for something, but he never got the point, or he couldn't fathom what that was about. All right, so then, when they turned to Kavanaugh, she starts asking questions, and she starts asking about his sex life history.
Uh-huh.
But never asked her about hers. She's 15 years old. Have you ever had sex before? Or anything, any of those kinds of questions. Like she asked him. Well, why not? Wouldn't you want to know those things too? Or what are you doing 15 years old at a party with people older than you? And you don't even know how you got there and all that, and how you got home, and you don't remember when or where. And I'm listening to this gal from the Goldsmith report, Louisa, and she's up there at the university level, a researcher, and probably teaching too. That when things like this happen, you remember an awful lot.
Yeah.
Woman, I don't know if Louisa said it, but someone else did. Maybe Savage did. And okay, so anyway, they turn to Kavanaugh with Rachel Maddow, and what happens? Suddenly, the senators, the Republican senators, start asking questions, like Lindsey Graham, and suddenly this Rachel Mitchell is gone because she wasn't doing the job. I think they decided, hey man, I'm not going to let her, represent me anymore. I'm going to speak for myself and, make statements or ask questions. So, I thought, that was a good point. That whole program went off the rail. And maybe it was Lindsey Graham who really got it going. That's just a couple of things that came to mind. But there's an awful lot of information, that if we all had time to think about and reflect, it's not just to get through the 9 hours, but then to think on top of it.
Oh, boy.
You're just trying to absorb it all. And then, there's some people that are really good at standing back and saying, oh, but this and this and this and this, Anyway, the little bit that I got from Winston Trout so far, he's kind of a slow talker. And this is apart from the hearing, but he said, through his sources, he said, Trump is just a figurehead for who's really in control, and it's the military.
Mm-hmm.
Been told the military is in complete control. And I was reflecting on, what was it? Who was it? Greg Hunter talking about the executive orders. They're all about emergency acts and so on.
Yeah.
It's all about martial law, and ratcheting it up, I guess you might say, to be simple about it, and reminding people, foreign and domestic, and so on and so forth. And then there was Lindsey Graham asking Kavanaugh in the nomination hearing, not this last one, about martial law, and we've been there since a couple days after 9/11, where we've been under martial law. So, I guess Graham was kind of setting it up to let people know. Yeah. And someone else pointed out, it looks like Lindsey Graham is, starting to sing like a bird. Yeah. helping uncover the deep state and revealing some things to the people. So anyway, that's and the CIA. They've been running everything for a long time. Killed Kennedy, killed a lot of people. It gets in their way. It's a monster without control, and this is the problem with the agencies. You're the president, you get to appoint them, but you don't get to tell them what to do so much. The bureaucracy took over.
Well, I'll tell you what, I really got an eye-opener with that, and I think that what we just read today, I think, and this is my personal opinion, is that we are going to see this come full circle, just exactly the way it was outlined, only it'll be presented by the FBI, because that's what the Democrats wanted, and so they wouldn't expect to get that kind of answer. And
I think Winston Trout was saying it's evident by the way the Democrats were responding that they didn't know that they were going to get to this stage with having to face Kavanaugh, and they weren't examining the guy. And that's true. This is what the whole point of the hearing was, but they were starting to make speeches, political speeches. It's like they're in disarray, I guess. Yeah. Well, there's a little thing with Sheila Jackson passing an envelope to the lawyer, Bromwich. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
Having worked for someone else who's been in trouble before. You have to consider who these people are, and Michael Savage laid into Dianne Feinstein because he's from San Francisco, where she was the mayor way back, and how sinister she is, and Machiavellian, and just getting what she wants. Anyway, I'm jumping around here a little bit, but you have to know who the players are, and who's handing out the programs. We're lucky to get that from different people who dug into it. Yeah, and this is the problem. Who do you trust to give you your information? Who's in charge? Who's writing the script? Where's the power? And and who do you think the few want to give the power to the people? No, but the military is tired of all the death and destruction, and even in their own families fighting for their country, and they said enough is enough, and there's where the real revolution began. Culturally, there were people who always complained about it. The left used to be kind of on board with, against the war and so on, but now you look at it, and it's a whole different left than what I used to know. There's no moral thing about it. It's just ideology. And it's a flailing of the losers who are trying to really take over the government. The last half mile in the race, the marathon. Yeah.
So tell me, based on what has been released, even though it's been mentioned before. Now, he said they were going to vote today. I don't think that's happened, but it could have.
No, that's changed. I saw the tweet that came out today that I saw today that Trump put out last night at around 4 o'clock our time yesterday, that the FBI investigation has begun. And they're going to investigate Kavanaugh and Ford and the Ramirez girl, but not the other ones. And got flaked and all that kind of stuff. And when they'll have a vote, I guess depends on how long it takes. We just don't know. You know, that's yet to be determined. We're just lucky to know that it already started. And maybe it'll be done by Tuesday in time for that October 3rd testing of the new emergency broadcast system, wireless. We'll see.
Well, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, I was just thinking, gee, they haven't changed that yet. Maybe we'll find out more. You know, you have to stay tuned day by day, of course. You know, and then the question is, do we really have to wait for this for us to go internet? There's always that question.
Yeah.
You know, how important, is all of it, and what are the other, what are there other overriding considerations? Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. Is there other deadlines that need to be met? I didn't see you send the Operation Disclosure report out today that I sent.
I did. Did you look in your spam?
I didn't see it. But anyway, the only thing that I got from that was that the SWIFT system is completely gone.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
all
that.
SWIFTs.
Let me check here and see. Sometimes I send it out from my phone, and it doesn't always go out. Yeah, I'll bet you it didn't. Well, it's better late than never.
Yeah, now, the Michael Savage thing, I don't know, it's an hour long, and he kind of rants and raves, and I think he got the gist of that, but there were a few other little nuggets along the way. I wish I'd taken the notes of those, but I'm not recommending that you send it out, and bend people's ears for an hour of listening to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, anyway, I'm just reading the little liner notes to the Winston Shroud Goldfish report.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 2-hour-long thing, so I'm not going to send it out, but maybe we'll talk about it if there's anything. But the note says he also makes a major announcement, Winston does, under threat by the powers that be. And then he outlines the elements of the new guard plan, the new government, I guess, that must include an interim government, new monetary system, new currency, new treasury, the significance of the Supreme Court, and consolidated presidential executive powers, presidential emergency broadcast alert system for October 3rd, martial law, mass arrests, military tribunals, and more. So they're just kind of getting warmed up right now. And Louisa, she's rails against the government, administrative government, about how they take children away from their families rather unfairly, unjustly, and how they've done it to her, where they've just kind of giving you a hard time, breaking you down, coming in for this test and that test, and there's really nothing there. But the family court system, in her opinion, is rife, and it's all about making money. It's really, I guess, from her point of view, it's a shakedown kind of affair.
Huh.
That's another aspect of what goes on in our world that we just aren't familiar with. We aren't being informed about.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much we can deal with. I understand. Look at all the stuff we talk about, and I think a lot of times we're just scratching surfaces here and there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, anyway, we'll see what else he has to say. But he said the military is in control. And he gets that from his sources, which I presume are military. And that's, I think they're the guys that came up with the plan a long time ago, and they drafted Trump, and he's doing a splendid job. And probably a lot more than what they expected, because he understands how to negotiate. And, just a little common sense, like tonight in his Make America Great rally in Wheeling, West Virginia. Tonight he's trying to help get a Republican in West Virginia into the Senate. He was saying that, we pay for your military protection, and, we're getting screwed in trade with you. How does that work? I mean, it's just common sense. And when he asks different people, like in the military, well, how much are we paying, and this, and it was almost like, well, this is just what we do. No one ever questions anything. And he's just like, just a simple businessman on a business proposition. How does this work?
Yeah.
Asking a basic question and using common sense, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's the only one who's willing to deviate from the program, as president. Well, he does have the support of the military, and I think that's the difference. Yeah, they're giving him, he has room to move. I think a lot of other presidents, maybe including Reagan, would have liked to have been able to do that, but how many times did he get shot or almost killed?
Yeah, that's right.
And they're claiming Trump maybe 6 or 7 times has been, had attempts on his life. But anyway, it's a whole different atmosphere, and I think he's just great. One American News, they claim that they polled people. I don't know who did the poll or any of the specific results, but people are saying they think Trump is a great manager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good way of putting it. You might, when you say president, that takes in a whole bag of, things that run through people's minds. But if you just get it isolated down to the word management, I'd say, he's getting things done.
Look at his success life in business. Wouldn't be that way.
Yeah, and he's proud of that, and he worked hard, and he went to the best schools, and he's confident in himself, and he's learned, and he's got an ego big enough where he says, I can do more, and he knows how to get small enough to say, well, okay, and, but he knows, now you see, he beat up on Kim Jong-un, and then they're making friends. Recently, he and his administration beating up on Maduro from Venezuela. Now they're talking about getting together and having talks. He has a strategy, for how he goes about things, and I guess he understands how people work.
Yeah.
And if you have the leverage, you know how hard to hit and when to pull back. How many times has he pushed hard against people, and then he'll turn around in the next breath and say, "Oh, but he's a very nice man." Yeah, pretty interesting. Maybe one day I'll read his book, The Art of the Deal, and learn a little bit more that I should have learned.
Well, it's been an interesting day.
Yeah. The other thing that keeps coming up is the playbook of the deep state. It's kind of the same stuff over and over, and they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I think Michael Savage talked about it, and he talked about revolutions and what's happened at different times. There's a certain pattern to the way things work, and after a while, people can read the patterns and then move their chess pieces accordingly, to counter those. So there's a learning that's going on. Just like today, Trump mentioned, he was looking at so-and-so, and I was watching he said, I could tell by Dianne Feinstein with her body language. I forget what he said about her. It wasn't very complimentary. But there's the word body language. I mean, maybe it's been only 30 years that people have talked about it. It's been brought to their attention, and they're more aware, more conscious of it when they're interacting with people. And I would say, growing up and around older people, no one ever really used to pick up on things like that. But that's out there in the public arena, and people talk about it, and they're paying attention. So we're growing up in some ways, is what I'm picking up on, at least as far as reading body language. Yeah. Well, anyway, there's all kinds of stuff like that around, I think. Yeah. I listened to a fellow from China who's in charge of Google China, Chinese fellow, being interviewed, talking about artificial intelligence, and he said, his book just came out, and he said, basically, we're moving into a time where the computers will be making a lot of decisions because they're better at it than humans. It's like, for instance, with doctors. They can diagnose things, and the doctor can override it or question it, and so on. But there's such a body of data out there. It's very, very hard to beat the computer. Okay, he said. So, what will a doctor become more of? He'll be someone there to empathize with you and be a caretaker. Which is also what people need. There's that personal psychological side that a computer can't do. And people, it's a creativity in people that a computer cannot create something new. It can only be taught what's already out there. But the other big point that he made was the Chinese will move ahead faster as time goes on because they have more data to deal with 1.5 billion people, whatever it is, 1.8 billion. There's more data that they're collecting, and so they're going to learn faster through their computers. So, and of course, they talked about different kinds of jobs. They'll go away, with this kind of computer automation, if you will. But there will be other jobs, as you said, like plumbing. The computer can't solve every plumbing problem. You need, maybe a human diagnosis, etc. I thought that's an interesting discussion, and looking into more deeply for people thinking about how to plan careers and vocations for the future, and schools for that matter. If you want to train people for jobs, and train them for the jobs that aren't going to be taken over by a computer. Well, there's all kinds of stuff out there. I just kind of take a note. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to check that out. Oh, yeah. And there are people spending most of their lives in these areas, and you just skim off a little bit of the general concepts and the significant things, and it can really propel you along and, I guess, keep you from falling into some holes. I was reminded by a friend who passed away in her 80s 20 years ago, who worked for the VA. Everything was done on paper. They were just, processing paper and shuffling it here to there and so on. And people used to say, I'm not a computer, because they used to get pushed and pushed and pushed. They'd make mistakes. And now the computer, is already overcome a lot of that. But that's just, I'm just trying to point out, where 40 years ago people were, saying I can't be everything you want me to be, but now we have machines that do that, and it'll just continue. And of course we'll have to see what happens with our financial economic system.
Oh, yes.
That goes.
Well,
I digress a little bit on that, but people are learning how to think a little bit more, and I think situations like this hearing kind of probably woke up some people and made them look a little differently at things.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you're the victim necessarily, even though a lot of them have been victimized. No doubt about it.
How many men have been victimized? They don't talk about that.
Oh, yeah, just the other way around. Oh, yes. I mean, evil, men have a burden when it comes to sexuality, and that, we're aggressive, and then women have a burden because they've been diminished in their role in terms of protecting themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this program, Goldfish Report, they were talking about Sigmund Freud, where he was just basically in denial about the problem of male aggression in their sexuality, and as a consequence, it was never reported. And they're just saying, I think Schraub was saying, in the last 40 years, I was shocked. And he said, because in my generation, and I think he said he was born in 1948, people didn't talk about things like that because you didn't think it was pleasant or proper or whatever. But if you ignore it, eventually it shows its head later, and that's what we're seeing. So that's part of the problem. Is not. I mean. How much should we be talking about pedophilia? Oh, it's kind of gross and so on. A lot of people are repelled by it. But how many children might be victimized because we don't talk about it?
Yeah.
It's a way of putting the question.
Yeah.
And of course, it's theoretical, and people, I don't know, go on to the next thing. But I think it's real. And it's just not pleasant. My father was talking to a reporter before he died about his experiences in World War II, and a guy wrote a long article, but after my father saw the article, he said, wait, but you left out this, and this, and the journalist said, well, we don't want to upset the people, and, they wouldn't want to hear things like that, but there was some things that really shouldn't have happened that did happen, and kind of like the My Lai massacre, that was a shock. Photographer got that and exposed that, and suddenly, the world is much different than what we thought. Us in the American public anyway, and so there's a little pushback, like, what should we tell people? What's the news that's fit to print, which was the motto of the New York Times. All the news that's fit to print, just consider them. Everyone's editing, is my point, and they have their own rationale, and it might be good to a certain extent. But eventually, if the truth is hidden, it offers maybe an opportunity for evil to find a life and feed off it. So it's not a pleasant thing to talk about. Probably just want to say, well, let's say goodnight, Mark. but it comes up, and eventually it shows up. Like, I used to hear people from my father's generation and before saying, well, a lot of stuff has been swept under the carpet. One day we're going to have to lift the carpet up. Been hearing this for a long time, and there have been people who tried to pull the carpet up, like Ralph Nader, Ron Paul, maybe you could say Ross Perot to a certain extent, and Kennedy, and you can probably name a few others. Ronald Reagan tried. You got to stay alive too. You can't get yourself shot.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and it takes time. It's a process, I believe. Just like women's getting the right to vote. Why did it take so long? We pride ourselves on the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, and they couldn't vote. How long did that take? Or blacks having rights. They had to write separate bills, and it still took time for people to change their attitudes. And that's basically what the problem is, exposing it and then giving time for people to wrangle with it and and then move on to the next generation that picks it up, I think, and usually treats it a little bit better. Yeah. There's a lot of old baggage. It's hard to get rid of, is what I'm trying to say. And the younger generation usually, it's a little less. They just have less carrying that they're carrying around.
Well,
Okay.
let's see what the next couple of days bring.
Yeah. I just don't know what to say about our win, other than stay tuned. It could be tonight, tomorrow, maybe the 3rd. We'll see.
I think that scenario that Abel Danger posted, I think that's going to happen. I think the FBI, that's what they're going to bring up, and it'll be quick, and it'll be swift, and it'll be fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it'll be 7 days.
No.
No, maybe hopefully by the 3rd, let's say.
Yeah, I agree.
We can get on with the show.
There you go. I'm ready.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I liked your video of your backyard. It's beautiful.
Oh.
It's so rich. I love that. I'll tell you, Don, when I look at places where I want to live, I think more about what's outside than I do about the inside. Yeah, I want a house that has, a nice kitchen and, and a big bathroom and some windows and all that. But I think I pay 60-70% attention to what's around me outside. And I thought your yard was great.
I was
all the plants and flowers.
The water feature. You really heard the water, didn't you?
I didn't have my volume up. I guess I missed that. I'll go back to it because I really enjoy that.
Yeah, turn up the volume, and you'll hear the birds.
Oh, and I love birds. I feed birds where I am.
We've got 5 bird houses on our property.
You can hear them in the morning when you wake up, maybe.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of baby birds leave this property. I'll tell you.
Oh, this is one of my loves. The animals around us and meeting with them. Yeah. So anyway, I really enjoyed that. Thanks for sending that over.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, we'll talk with you next time.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, have a good night.
Bye-bye.